Hello, my name is Rich Green, and I work for Acert, the maker of the industry-leading testing software called Versatest. Now, many people that know me in the industry know me as Rich, the testing guy, but what most folks probably don't know about me is that I am passionate about data security, especially that of the consumer. Now, I first got involved in this issue doing my doctoral dissertation research in 1998. It was called The Antecedents of Online Personal Information Sharing with Risk as a Moderating Variable. Yeah, it was a real page-turner. But suffice to say, I learned a lot, and I was very fortunate to be able to consult with ex-CIA and NSA personnel, and I was absolutely amazed and a little bit shocked at times at what I learned. Now, just to be clear, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, I'm sure that they didn't share any information that wasn't available already in the public domain. I just didn't know this stuff. So, if you want to learn what they told me, hang on for the next slide. Are you ready? Okay, here it is. Scott Neely said it very well. You already have zero privacy, so get over it. Now, privacy, I learned, was a little bit of an illusion in the mind of the consumer. But even though that is the case, it's not to be taken lightly because the consumer doesn't take it very lightly. If you're doing business with consumers and you're collecting their personal information, they have an expectation that they can trust that you won't misuse that information. They have an expectation that they will trust you will protect that information. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that during this presentation. If you deal with security in your company, this next slide will not be of any surprise to you. If you keep up on the news and what's going on as far as data threats and data security, the statistics probably won't be of any surprise to you, but they are stunning nonetheless. 2015 showed that the U.S. continues to be at the top of the map as far as countries that are threatened the most. And cybercrime beats all of those threats. There's over 1 million malware threats daily. And surprisingly, Fortune magazine did a poll across 7 industry sectors and found that 71% of the companies admitted to being successfully attacked in 2015. Not attacked, successfully attacked. In the title of this presentation, you saw something about the dirty little secret. Well, the dirty little secret that exists is that the risk from data theft is not just external. There's a very, very high risk from internal, from within your organization. In fact, studies have shown that 36% of the threat comes from ignorant or careless user actions, people that just don't know any better, or really stupid people that work in your company. But here's the scary one. 25% of the security breaches are caused by malicious insiders. That's a really high statistic. And finally, 49% of the breaches are caused by employees that bypass security measures. So why is privacy important? If there's no privacy, why should you care? Well, I'll tell you, there's plenty of reasons that I'm going to share with you. First, let's talk about what data really is. Plainly put, it's an asset. It is an asset to your corporation. And if you're dealing with personal consumer information, it is even more of a valuable asset. You should be protecting that like it were a bar of gold. Now, I'm not talking about one of those thin little wafers of gold. I'm talking about a big brick of gold. Have you ever thought about what a big brick of gold might be worth? Well, I'll tell you. It's worth close to $500,000 US. Think about it. What if you had a brick of gold? What would you do with it? Well, you'd probably lock it up, wouldn't you? Well, you want to make sure that it was in a safe place, that someone couldn't get to it and they couldn't steal it. And, you might be kind of proud of it and want to show it off. You might want to show it to some of your friends. but you'd want to make sure that they were people that you could trust, that they wouldn't tell others about it, that they wouldn't tell others where that brick of gold was. Consumer information is exactly the same as that brick of gold. It's an asset, it's valuable, it's to be protected, and you should use caution who you share that with. Now, if that's not enough, and you don't really care about the value of that brick of gold or that data, you really should be concerned about the laws and regulations that dictate how you will use that data. Let's talk a little bit about some statistics here. The surveys show that nearly half of boards of directors do not approve policies or expenditures for security, for information security. They're not even involved in it. Data privacy and data security risks are not limited to any particular industry that exists in financial, in healthcare, and utility sectors, and especially in the retail sector. So now what's the harm? If we talked about the fact that there really is no security of data, or there really is no privacy, well, here's the harm. If you have a data breach, you have potential reputation issues. You have a disruption of your operations, and you've got financial costs or legal liability because of the laws and regulations that exist. Now, there are two types of personal information. The first is that information that's specific to the consumer. Their name, postal address, birth date, social security numbers, driver's license information, any kind of financial account information, etc. And then there's a non-personally identifiable information that might indicate where a consumer lives as far as their zip code or their state, or whether they're a man or a woman, those types of things. Now, as I said earlier, there are laws that govern how companies can use personal consumer data and what they should do to protect it. In the United States, it's a bit of a patchwork. You've got federal regulations, and then you've got the laws of the 50 states. And each state has its own set of laws about how companies should deal with personal consumer information. So again, it is a bit of a patchwork. The European Union is a little bit different. They're much more uniform. It's centralized. They're actually much stricter than the U.S. is. I'm going to talk about one U.S. federal regulation, which is the FTC Act. And the FTC Act deals with unfair or deceptive practices affecting commerce. What does that actually mean? Well, the FTC defines deceptive as failing to verify the identity of persons to whom confidential consumer information was disclosed. So, for example, if you've got consumer information, and let's just say it's that bar of gold that we talked about earlier. Who did you show it to? Were the people that you can trust? Were you sure that they would protect that information about where that bar of gold was, or that consumer information was? And the second thing was unfair. What does unfair mean? Unfair is failing to implement reasonable safeguards to protect privacy of consumer information. Now, as you can see from the slide here, there are a number of other U.S. federal regulations that deal with the protection of consumer-specific information. I'm not going to go through these because that's not the purpose of this presentation, but you can see there's a whole lot of things that you need to be familiar with if you are in the business of securing that information within your organization. One of the things that I want to be able to share with you today is that something that everybody can do, and that is create a set of best practices within your own company. At the top of the list is creating a culture of security. Now, from the top down, if you remember that slide a little earlier that talked about boards of governance, boards of directors, and how almost 50% of them weren't even involved in security issues. That's got to change. You have to create a culture of security, and it's got to begin at the top, and then it goes down. Making information security a risk management issue as well as a technology issue. So blending those two together and understanding how they affect your organization. Understanding which laws apply to you. Now, this is really difficult. As you saw earlier, there are all sorts of U.S. federal regulations. There's 50 different states that you have to deal with. If you're doing business internationally, you've got the EU, you've got lots of other countries that all say what you can or cannot do with that information. And if you're in the business, you have to know all of those laws, and you have to understand how they affect what you're doing. Another good best practice is to educate your employees and your business partners on the importance of securing personal consumer information. And finally, think like a lawyer, but ask questions like a geek, which means think about the possible liability that could occur, or liability issues that could occur for not protecting data. Think about the technology that is employable within your organization, how you might be able to use that to mitigate those risks. And finally, the thing that I'm going to recommend that you do if you are serious about this is to conduct a privacy audit. Now, I work for a testing software company, and we're going to talk about how privacy interacts or intersects. Now, I work for a testing software company, and we're going to talk about how consumer privacy of data intersects with testing. But one of the things that you need to be aware of is that one of the first best practices that you should employ is the use of a privacy audit. And this should be done on a regular basis. This is something that allows you to collect information about what you're doing with data, the collection, the storage of that information, how you use it, what type of protection you have in place. It'll help to identify the exposure points, the risk points that you have. And it will also allow you to consider and implement changes to minimize those risks. So now let's talk about Assert. And as I said earlier, Assert is the leading provider of testing technology called VersaTest. It will become very apparent in the next couple of slides why I have laid out the importance of protecting consumer information and how that intersects with testing. Assert is the leader in testing technology and has been since 1992. Their information technology is very flexible, so it's bendable. It enables companies to wrap around the technology around their testing problems and provide a very elegant and cost-effective solution. The company has a reputation for delivering high-performance software. So, for example, you want to be able to do stress tests in the thousands of TPS, the software is able to simulate that with no problem at all. The company provides very flexible solutions. You can either host the solution yourself, or you can use a certified hosted cloud-based service to do that. And the company is leading the way in testing solutions for every important industry mandate and technology advancements. Some of the things that they've done recently, or one of the areas that they've worked on recently, is EMV and the implementation of EMV in the United States. And technology advancements I'm going to share with you in just a minute. The company has a new product that deals with consumer privacy and how technology can help to protect consumer-specific information. But before I do that, every presentation has to have one slide where they brag just a little bit about what the company's been able to do for their customers. So the slide that you see right now is a list of documented instances where using the technology has helped companies to do a variety of things. At the top of that list is save time through automation. And this one particular company was able to document a reduced testing time from 23 man days down to 48 hours. More complete testing. So if you can automate things as opposed to manual approach, the number 2 bullet point that you see there, you've got a company that went from 900 regression test cases to over 4,000 test cases. Good testing software can allow you to take product to market faster. So a merchant certification process was reduced from 6 weeks down to 5 days. Second from the bottom of the list is reduced costs. If you're able to automate things and you're able to take some of that human interaction out of the process, you should be able to save money, right? Well, we've got a customer that documented $1.5 million worth of savings annually to their testing practice. And finally, faster mandate compliance in the instance of EMV in the United States, because the company has been doing this type of testing since 1998. We've got a wealth of information. We can help people get up and running very quickly and do what they need to do. So now let's talk about the product that deals with consumer-specific information. That is Relate Plus. Now, Relate Plus is an elegant tool and a very powerful tool that provides intelligent manipulation and comparison functions to Enscribe files, which are files that are on the NonStop platform. It does comparison of Enscribe files in field right down to the field level. It enables our users to globally modify fields of information or delete information, and it allows the users to elegantly and simply insert new records into the database. The great thing about the Relate product is that our customers that use this product, it's almost like a cult. I mean, they absolutely love the product. Some of them have even designed their own user manuals, which I could never understand because the product is so easy to use. You can self-teach it and be up and running in as little as 30 minutes. But people that use it love it because of its power and its flexibility. And one of the great things about it is that it allows you to do just about anything you want to do with those files. Now, here's the rub. Here's where the danger comes in. In many instances, as we discussed earlier, in the testing arena, a lot of times production data is used, which means live data is used, which means you might have personal consumer information that's in the clear. And that's not what you want to do if you're concerned about internal threats and you're putting into place best practices to protect that consumer information. So we have enhanced the Relate product and have come out with a new product called Relate PCI. Now, Relate PCI specifically addresses the problem of ensuring that customer private data is not inadvertently used in testing or development and not exposed to those people that shouldn't see the information. It ensures compliance with sections 3, 6, 7, 8, and 11 of the PCI standards. We use security access controls, fingerprinting, and various data masking technologies to do this. Relate PCI supports access control features to restrict access to only those users that are allowed to look at the information. It enforces user-defined masked views of live data. And this helps to prevent sensitive data from being accidentally displayed or extracted. And typically this happens when people are using production data to create test data. It supports data scrubbing for reporting or test data generation. Very importantly, it creates an audit trail of user access and actions, so you know who looked at the data, when they looked at the data, and you've got this as a record so that you can go back to it any time if there are questions. And finally, there are a whole host of other features that are in the tool that are very valuable, that make it very easy to use, but most importantly, protect that consumer information from eyes that don't need to see it. I want to thank you for joining us today in the presentation. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you got some great information that you can use internally in your organization to ensure that you're protecting private consumer information that you deal with. If you want to know more about how to protect that data in a test type of an environment, we'd love to do a demo of the Relate PCI product. All you need to do is contact us via one of the means on this slide here. Send us an email, go to our website, or give us a call.